Well, this can be an unofficial in the works, number 18 or wherever the hell I left off. I can't remember. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you like those. I was always pretty self-conscious about doing them. Just, I don't know. This whole thing, I wrestle a lot with just the pretension of publishing in general and putting yourself out there.
Right.
I totally get the need for some people like Clancy who joined earlier just to completely be anonymous. I think that there's definitely a need to do that because otherwise it can feel like a whole other uh, thing to take on, just managing that persona of yourself. And no matter how authentic or genuine you are in your intentions, I think that there's always just this fear that people feel like you're play acting in some way, right?
Right. I will say, as a writer who enjoys you're in the works, I view it from the standpoint of, oh, he's going through the same thing I've gone through, or this is where I will be soon. Like
Yeah.
that's where I'm
Hmm.
viewing it from. So for me, it's almost like a not an instruction manual, but just a warm blanket of like, okay, I'm not, because it's a very silo situation
It
being a writer.
is.
There's no one here sitting right next to me as I'm toiling away writing my 100 word stories or whatever it is. So
Mhm.
every now and again, before I go to bed or in the middle of the day, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna put on that Ben Wakeman in the works. You
Watch him
know,
suffer a little bit, so I know.
where he's showing how he put together, Memory of My Shadow, and he's giving us like a little walkthrough of it. Like it's a calming thing to see and be like, okay, I got this. There are struggles, there are humps in the road, but
So what
Ben
you're saying,
showed
Eric,
us.
is I'm your Bob Ross. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, yes. That's a perfect analogy because I will tell
That's the
you I love
highest
Bob
compliment.
Ross, and I've got him on my Pluto TV channel. He's a favorite where I can just go 24/7 and watch Bob Ross.
Yeah.
Yes, you are
Let's
my
see,
Bob
a
Ross.
happy little squirrel lives over here. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, I want to say you are on my Mount Rushmore of interviews of people
Oh,
I want to interview. So I think Mount Rushmore has four heads, if I'm not mistaken, and so I do. I have my list, and I actually this morning I went to my list and I marked I got Ben Wakeman. Okay, like you are definitely
you
on
are
my list.
embarrassing me. You're being too sweet. Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
not. I've been
Undeserving.
wanting to talk to you and to get on a call with you for the longest time. And you kind of put me on the spot, I will say a little bit today, because you went on notes and you said you were going to be having an interview with me, and you very lovingly said to talk about writing, publishing, and community. And I said, "Is that what we're talking about?" Oh my God. And if I could show you my screen, I would, but I won't. But I literally was like all day, I pulled out my iPhone notes, and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna talk about writing, publishing, and community building with Ben. I better have questions that hit on those three marks.
Oh my God. No, I was just thinking about the things we have in common when I wrote that
Right.
note today. So
And I
yeah.
was just like, okay, got it. All right. Don't want to let the man down. This is what he promised the people. So let's give him what he promised. Um, And I was going to start with writing, but now I think I want to start with community building because I want to gush on you a little bit more. And I want to start with the fact that from my standpoint, from my little viewpoint of Substack, of notes, of all the things of where I met you, you are to me the first person who did any sort of community building of anything in the fiction community when you did your Same Walk, Different Shoes.
Mhm.
And I can't recall, and there probably was someone somewhere who did a community organizing event before that. But for me, that was the moment. Am I a little quiet, EJ? I feel like I'm shouting, but I will try to be a little louder. um, but you did Same Walk, Different Shoes 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So last summer was the last one that you did. You did volume 2. And
Mhm.
so just to get it out of the way, we can confirm and or deny that since it is about a year later, And
Will
you're
there be another
totally
one?
and you're totally not busy at all with anything else really. So your plate is empty to take on the task of will there be another a volume 3 of Same Walk Different Shoes?
Good question. For those of you who didn't know, because I'm sure probably a lot of people don't know, that project was really just it was a community writing project. I'd met a lot of fantastic writers. A couple of them are on this chat. If I look at it, Julie's here, Julie Gabrielli, for one, and I just wanted to create a space where it was a democratic space where everyone could kind of have a voice and tell a story. And as kind of an icebreaker prompt, the idea was that you you kind of put into the hat something from your own experience that was pivotal, like a pivotal real experience in your life. It could be traumatic, it could have been joyful, it could have been, anything that just your life changed after you hit that event. And everyone submitted it, and I programmed this randomizer in Google Sheets, made it anonymous. Everyone got someone else, made sure no one got their own name. And then you had like, I think a month. I think it was Thanksgiving I introduced it, and you had until like Christmas to write the story the first time. And I was just blown away by the quality and the power of those stories by unknown writers. Effectively, there's just so much talent, and it was an opportunity to kind of have all those people read, because I think if you look around on Substack, there are so many writers that have one little heart by things that they're publishing, and that's just it's demoralizing. It's painful to have to be measured in that way, and every writer goes through that. And my and I'm not sort of beyond that at all. I still deal with it. So that was really the spirit of wanting to do it. Is if you amass enough people together, you have the opportunity for people to discover other writers that they would never normally discover. It creates this sort of mutual sense of obligation to read each other's work, much like a writing workshop would do, just at a larger scale and kind of doing it in a public way. And I loved the way that it came out. I love the stories that came out. It was took a lot of energy. I'm amazed at how you have so much energy to do what you do with the top and fiction stuff and all the other community building stuff that you're doing.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I took that on, and I'm avoiding the question, which was, am I going to do another one?
Right.
And
Don't worry, I'll bring it back.
yeah, yeah, I would love to do another one. I think it's just a question of how to structure it and maybe make it a little bit smoother from an administrative standpoint.
Right.
Because live videos here now, I've had a lot of ideas about incorporating that in some way, uh, just sort of making encounters between two different writers. Because I think writers are fascinating people. We spend a lot of time internalizing and thinking about things that a lot of people don't, because it's different when you write something down. It's not like people don't think about difficult things or challenging things, but when you write about them, you have to process them in a really slow way to really understand every aspect of it. So they make for a good conversation.
Yeah. And Top and Fiction is always here to help with any sort of ideas that people have. I love when we do a disruption and someone comes to me and says they have an event they want to put together. And I'm just like, use me as the vessel to either announce it or put it together in one cohesive post and share it. So, if you've got an idea for volume 3, I'm ears. I'm all ears. But I won't put you on the spot with that. Uh, but I do want to talk a bit about what you're doing now because it is really interesting. You're doing this sort of like I'm looking at them as sort of like vignettes. You're
Hmm.
passing strangers that you're doing each week. And so, talk to me a bit about would you say this is almost like a palate cleanser for you after you just did departures, and so you're just doing bite-sized chunks of stories, or is there some bigger meaning to this that we will see later? As you did mention, there is something that's um, threaded through everything. So if you're paying attention to each story, which I am, I don't think it's a spoiler to say there is some sort of event happening, and all of these people are either in or around or near or hearing
Hmm.
at different moments of this sort of like I'm envisioning a concert at Central Park situation, and all
Hmm.
of these people just are you're telling the story of each random person at this event.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so it is kind of a palate cleanser to do this series. It's also a little bit of stalling because I'm trying to buy some time while I work on my new novel. Um,
Mhm. Okay.
I just I was unemployed for 18 months, and it was sort of a blessing and a curse, obviously. Like most of us who have creative pursuits, it's the best thing that could ever happen to you, have that much free, unstructured time. But it was also super stressful. Now that I am gainfully employed again, I've had like so little time to
Right.
write by comparison. So it's moving a lot slower. So I did Departures. I think I started serializing it after I was in chapter 8. So I was, I had very little sort of buffer before I was getting everyone to the in time with the story that I was just writing. And I can't be that brave now because I just don't have. I know I can't just throw myself at it and write for 30 hours in a week.
Right.
It's so yeah, it is. It's more manageable. I always observe people. That's kind of it's always been my thing. I think until I discovered I could write about it, it felt like a weird uh, obsessive kind of tick, and it's become a sort of superpower as a fiction writer. So I take a walk every day in a park. I live in Midtown Atlanta, and all the characters that you're seeing, I've seen at some point. And it's just, I know it's not some precious thing that no one else does. Normal people make a game of this, of just making a story up about the person you see across the street eating ice cream. But so yeah, it's no more or less than that. It's just this attempt to try and capture as much as you can, as real as you can about a person that you encounter. Because writing is a muscle, like you do it every day with your 100-word stories.
Right.
The more you do it, the more you exercise it, the more you have to put yourself in the place of someone else, the better you get at it.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
it's become
yeah.
a bit of an obsessive impulse for me, and so the closer I get to my 1000th story, and I've said over and over again that will be the end. Like I will no longer at least I will no longer do them every day. Who will I be and what will I do? It's a terrifying thing to face to be like, okay, I'm not going to do these anymore. I'm going to just go to bed at night and not stress that I haven't written my story yet. And it's 11 o'clock and have the minutes ticking away. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to write my story and it has to be before midnight. And, that won't be there anymore. So, I am
Yeah.
trying to find what the next thing will be. But with your strangers, how many of them are we going to get? Do you think? Are you just going to keep going until you feel like you've done your entire novel secretly and then you're ready to
No, I mean,
publish that?
and this is a good question because it's sort of, and I'd love to hear other people because there's other writers on here who manage Substacks, and it's just there's an aspect of this weekly publishing schedule that it is a performance every single week, right? And there's a need for us to kind of templatize it, like you and I are both doing to some degree. And I know a lot of other writers do too. They have like a format that they do either every week or every other week, and maybe they have two or three that they do. Some people are just hardcore and they just write a single short story every week or every 2 weeks. I'm constantly, like everyone else, experimenting with a formula to try and find the balance between what genuinely keeps me interested and engaged because I'm not really getting paid for this.
Right.
And also what's going to be of service to my audience, what's going to be entertaining or engaging to them, because that kind of is the point. If you're the kind of writer or artist who's like, I just do it for myself, it's like, well, why are you publishing? If it's just for
Yeah.
yourself, it is for an audience, it is for readers, it is to connect with other people. So I've done 4 now. I don't have a I'm not nearly as structured. I imagine you probably have an amazing spreadsheet with all your ideas and you probably prioritize and rank them. I am
Yeah,
completely seat of the pants.
it's an unnecessary evil that I have, honestly. I can't tell you how difficult it took me to actually create a blank page for all 1,000 stories ahead of time on Scrivener with the date, and then how many times along the way I've seen a mistake where it should have been story number 698 and it was actually 699 that I put. And so I've had to do all 400 and change them. And I've had to, don't laugh, Ben, because this is real life for me, okay? And I've had to do that multiple times. And I'm like, why are you sitting here editing these blank sheets with the date and the number of the story? What is wrong with you? And I'm doing this, my Bradbury year that I'm doing for 52 weeks. So what did Erica do for the past 2 days? She created a folder with week one and the date from this date to this date for 52 folders for 52 weeks. And in each folder, I put that I'm going to do a review of a short story. I'm going to do the outline for week one, and I'm going to do the story for week one. And I did that. I have 52 folders now in my Scrivener document. I have a problem, Ben, and I do
That's
not know how to solve it.
that's some hardcore OCD right there. You definitely got that going on.
I I have a serious don't tell me like, "Oh, we should do X number of this." And then I've got the spreadsheet up, I'm coming up with the formula, I'm figuring out, I'm pre-planning, I'm ready. No one's gonna say Erica's not prepared.
Yeah, you are definitely prepared in spades, and
Yeah.
I am a complete seat of the pants kind of person. I my partner is always complaining that I will not plan anything like vacations. Like I just don't think that way. I I'm very much reacting to things as they come to me, and the Passing Strangers series is very much like that. I don't know who I'm going to write about until I sit down to write. I don't know how many I'm going to do. I don't know that there's a big story. I mean, they're all in the same general setting. There is kind of an event that's referenced in there, but I'm not holding myself to kind of bring it all home because that defeats the
I'm
purpose.
waiting for the moment when the person on stage who's about to perform is Ben Wakeman. I'm waiting for when someone reads the poster or describes the image on the poster and they're describing you. And I'm just gonna be like, I knew it.
Well, the secret here is I'm in all of them. That's the nature of writing, right? I think
Well,
that's
one of my questions, and I wasn't sure if this actually fit, but now that you say that you're in all of them, they say that writers leave a little bit of themselves in a story, like in a character, in a setting. Like you have to personalize it in some way to you. And so I wonder, as you're doing these strangers, like how much of you are you devoting, are you putting, what little tidbit are you taking? And in my mind, I'm envisioning like after a couple of weeks, how much of Ben will be left? Like he's just leaving a little piece of his soul into each one of these strangers. And so like and the horror person in me is thinking like, man, he's just gonna be a shell of himself after, if he does any more of these.
well, there must be just way too much of me to go around then, because I think I've still got a lot of juice in the tank
Right.
for
Right.
writing fiction. And I mean, when I say there's something in me in all of them, it's not obviously literal. It's like my fingerprints are on it, I guess, to
Right.
some degree.
Right.
Every person that I've met, if I had a momentary relationship with them or a lifelong relationship with them, you know, things that I've seen my dad do over the years, things that I've witnessed, and a coworker who was particularly annoying. Um, Writing is that way that you can kind of synthesize those and you can mash them up into these unbelievable characters. Nothing makes me more irritated than lazy writing, where people create characters that are just cardboard cutouts of just complete archetypes, where there's not anything that is contradictory in their behavior. Because I've yet to meet a single person that I felt like was predictable. I
Right.
mean, if you know them well enough, anyway. If you're looking at them from a distance, that's a whole other thing. But
Right.
what's what's incredible about humans is just how mercurial we are.
Right. And when you think about there are millions of people in the world, that's millions of stories upon millions of
Right.
unique different stories. And so one of the other things, because we touched a little bit on writing. So your process, it sounds like, is you think, well, I've got a story due in a week. Do you start working on it immediately? Do you think, well, I have to have this published by tomorrow, so I guess I should hunker down? Are you one of those who likes to push the limits and the boundaries because that sparks your ideas more if you're really on a time crunch?
It's not. I'm not really a procrastinator.
Mhm.
So I think that's why I've been able to get, you know, I've been able to publish as much as I have because I genuinely love the process of doing it. I like. There's some writers that like having written. They like having the thing done, but they don't really like the process of it. I really like the process of it. I really enjoy writing. That's the cool part to me. I also like, you know, typesetting the thing and making the cover art and bringing it together. The only thing I don't like is marketing it. That is shit for
Yeah,
me. I hate that
I
part of
know.
it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I think of it that keeps me up, and recently it has been really, like, suffocating me, the idea of I know what I wanna do when it comes to publishing, self-publishing my own work, and hopefully in the future, other people's work, but I also know that it's not enough to just create the cover art and format the book and put it up on Amazon and just sit back and wait for people to magically and miraculously find it. Like, you have to do the legwork. And I don't even have Twitter or any of those things on my phone. The very
yeah,
idea of adding them onto my phone for that purpose sickens me. Like,
yeah,
when I deleted them, it was so great that I never had to add them back again. And I always hear my wife talking about, you know, all the nightmares because she has all the social media because she does marketing stuff, and I'm just like, "You are the reason why I don't add these things to my phone." If I have to hear
yeah,
one more story about Facebook or something else, I'm just like, "Yeah, this is why I don't have it on my phone because I don't
yeah.
need it because 'cause you're stressing and I don't need the stress. You stress for me."
That's
But
true.
yeah, I wish there were another way. I don't know what the other way is, but there needs to, I'm actively trying to figure out what that other way could possibly be. But
Yeah,
I don't
when
want to
you,
TikTok. I don't want to do it. I just don't want
yeah,
to do it. And I don't think that's me sounding like an old person because I know I'm getting older. I just don't want to do it.
no, I'm with you. It is exhausting. There has never been a time when it was easier to create and mass distribute art than there is now. Uh, and it's never been kind of more difficult to be discovered or read or listened to than it is now. I mean,
Mhm.
for the first part of my life, I was really a musician, and that was my focus, and making records and playing gigs, and it's the same deal. It's just I decided to do something that's even harder by getting someone to read a novel instead of coming out to a show or or buying a CD. Um, it's it's a challenge, and I think what I've come to at this point in my life is I wrote this three-part essay series, right? I sort of expounded a lot on this navel gazing of art and commerce and how I grapple with the idea of making the thing and then trying to put the thing out into the world.
Yeah.
And how do you manage your own expectations for that ultimately? How do you keep doing it when you just basically find not even rejection? Because I mean, you'll find plenty of rejection if you start submitting query letters to literary agents and publishing houses. That's a known wall you run up against. But I think the more painful wall that many people in Substack are familiar with is just, and I mean, just being completely ignored. It's like you're not
Right. The
even there.
silence.
You're
Right.
just invisible. You've worked on this thing for a week, 6 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, and you publish it, and no one reads it, or maybe they do, but you never know that they read it. And that's disheartening.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep going, and um, I've decided I'm never going to be a great writer. Um, in my mind, if you think about it, what a great writer is, someone who's a best-selling author, but not just that, someone who does the work of like a Percival Everett or you know, a Pulitzer Prize winning author. Like there's this guy, I can't remember his name. He wrote Tinkers. His first name is Paul. I listened to an interview with him recently, and it's just the depth of thinking that he went into in writing his debut Pulitzer Prize winning novel is like, I don't have the level of perfectionism to do that, right? If everyone has an internal dial, 1 to 10 of sort of these immutable behaviors, things you cannot learn, right? They're just sort of baked into you. You are like a perfectionist, which is a spectrum. Everything I think is a spectrum. How much validation do you need? How perfect does the thing have to be before it goes? Does everything you do have to be complete? I think the way that I'm natured, if you look at like a Stephen King or a Dean Koontz who's published hundreds of novels, clearly they're not perfectionists. Because if they were, right, then they would not have been able to be as prolific as they are. It's just not humanly possible to like do 36 drafts of a novel and get it out in a year. Um, and then there's the writers, like I mentioned, who may release one novel in 10 years, and that's their pace because they have to be exacting and it has to be perfect. So I kind of, on that spectrum, maybe fall somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
So I'll write in my lifetime maybe 15 or 20 novels. And maybe by the 20th one, I'll be getting close to being a great writer because I won't write that same book for the next 10 years. I can't do it. It's not in my
Yeah, I think
ability.
there's also, there is that stark difference between the literary writer and the genre writer, where um, there is this unspoken or unwritten rule that the literary writer can take 15, 20 years to write their opus. And the genre writer, if you're not releasing 10 books a year, you might as well be non-existent. If you're not working on that series that's going to have 15 books and it's that epic thing,
Hmm.
then, your fear is you're forgotten. So there is that stark, I think, difference between, like I said, the literary writer and the genre writer. And that's not to say that one is any better than the other. It's just for whatever reason, that's what the powers that be have dictated, that it's okay if Percival Everett doesn't write another amazing work of fiction for the next decade. He will forever be etched in stone as one of the greatest literary writers of our time. And
And he's a weird bird though, because I mean, he has written a ton of or published a ton of work. I love him. It just
and now is a
his
great time for him to start promoting that, because people will say, "Wait, there's more? Don't buy
yeah.
that."
And that's another whole problem I think with publishing is frequently like, I've published 4 novels now. Um, I've written 5 and I'm working on a 6th, but it's like once a novel is out there, if you're a contemporary writer, if you miss that window of like newness, it might as well be dead. No one's going back and reading a back catalog in most cases. Because we live in such a fast paced world. There's like these media cycles of like, you have this one opportunity, which puts even more pressure on you when you're releasing something new. And I worked really hard with departures to try and create this kind of build up to it because I'd learned that in the past, whether it was releasing an album, my early days, or the couple of novels I've done. You have to create a little bit of a spectacle and event about it
Right.
for people
And
to like
so
get there.
I have to ask the question then, the sort of elephant in the room of this slow pace with which you have a quick pace for writing the novel live to us every week, but then you have almost like slower than a snail's pace to get the book published. Because from my standpoint, you had such fanfare for Departures. I'm not even thinking about Harmony House being published, because you should have jumped on that last year when Harmony House finished, right? But from your standpoint, You're
Mm.
working on getting, I'm sure, because I think you've said it multiple times when I've heard you in other conversations, that people will always say, well, when's Departures coming out? And your response is, well, Harmony House is next. And every time
Yeah.
I'm like,
Did
no,
did I
no,
say I'm
Ben.
shit at marketing? Did I say that already? Yeah.
Departures is the one that everyone is waiting for. And you want everyone to be excited for Harmony House, but you missed the boat done sailed, Ben.
Yeah.
So by the time you do Departures, I mean, are there's the worry of like, well, the fanfare ended, 6 months after you finished the last chapter and you read it for us for Departures.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. Like I said, if I was a smart person, if I was a marketing person, I would have had this all completely strategically laid out like a battle plan. And
Right,
the truth is, I just love to write and be on to the next thing. And
right,
that's that interview that you everyone should listen. If you're a writer, you should listen to that Percival Everett interview on Talk Easy with Sam Fragoso. It's so great. He's just such a funny, brilliant guy. And the quote that he he said that I pulled and actually put in one of my essays was, he goes with by the mama bear principle of his writing. It's like, um, I give it all the love and attention I have when I'm writing it, and then when I'm done, I push it out of the cave. And if it can eat and fend for itself, that's great. If it gets eaten by something else, it's not my problem. He lets go of it when it's put out there, which is a whole different bag when you have a publisher and people that are putting it out. But still, I think that's why he was relatively unknown until recently with the last couple of books, the one that was made into the American fiction movie. Um, because he didn't go out there and go on social media and have a Substack and he was writing. He was writing and putting it out there, and that's what he loves to do. That's what I would love to do. Probably a lot of people here as writers would just love to do, but the truth is, you got to hustle to get readers. You have to hustle. You got to do a lot of hustle, and it's tiring. And um, but yeah, I think you're right. I've I think when I got to the end of Departures, when I got to the end of Harmony House, it was just such a my God. I finished just not only just writing this, but you know, editing, publishing the chapters, doing the audio narration, the music, all of it
Mm.
every single week for they took what 30, 40 weeks in some cases to be done. It's like shit, now I'm gonna go back and like do the typesetting and do you know, and that was when I didn't have a full-time job. So I had a lot more
right.
energy. So,
And
but
it's I can imagine how difficult it is to then, if you've only got an hour to do it all, how you prioritize which do you do? Because at the end of the day, I'm always going to prioritize the story.
Mhm.
And so in many ways, that's why the fifth 100 has not come out. When I was releasing the books and I released the first and the second and the third and the fourth, I didn't start doing that until I was well into like number 5 or 600, and it was very easy for me create a template so that I could easily drag and drop each story in, and so I could just as easily do it for the fifth one. But I'm
Yeah,
so distracted with I've got to write the story, I've got to write the story that I'm already going to be on hitting story 800, and I have done nothing for
yeah,
the fifth 100. And it's unfortunate, and like you, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to it. It's like, well, every time I think, here's my list of I have an hour, here's my list of the things that I need to do, that one always is like, I could do that tomorrow, I could
yeah.
do that next week, I'm not going to worry about it. So I do have to ask the question then, how close are we, Ben, to Harmony House releasing?
We're as
How
close as me carving out the time to get on the computer and do it
Okay, so
myself.
you heard that here. He's not close at all, which is
I
what it
am not close
sounds
at all.
like.
Well, because this is where
And
the
you know what? I
perfectionist
will
part of
say, where some people they look forward to that and are excited for that process, and I get the feeling that you're not. And I'm someone who does love it. I love living in InDesign. I love
no,
living in
I love the
Photoshop
design part.
and
It's not
and
that.
doing it. And
Yeah.
some people love to do it, and I actually I want to do the fifth 500. I want to put my collection of 1000. I'm looking forward to it. I've been sketching it out and stuff on how I'm going to lay it out. It is really just finding the time to do it because when I'm in InDesign, I feel like I'm in my element. Like that is the space that I love putting things together and seeing it. It's just a matter of I'm doing top and fiction stuff. I want to
Yeah.
get my Bradbury year started. I want to, I've got the serial hour that I'm working on and I'm writing that over there and I've got this over here and not that doesn't even come close to the son, the autistic son that I have to take care of who's about to be 4 years old. I've got two dogs who drive me nuts, three chickens in the backyard, full house that needs to get mowed. You know what I mean? A job that's
Your
nine to
energy
five that
amazes
pays
me.
me. Like,
Your
and
energy
and
is incredible.
I still have
Oh,
a
to be
paid
young.
job, which luckily I get to work from home, so that helps. That I've
Yeah.
had COVID was a terrible thing for a lot of people, but one of the great things that it did for me is it allowed my job to realize I did not have to work in an office to do it. And so
Yeah.
the fact that I've been working from home for the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years still is mind-boggling to me, and I'm waiting for them to say you have to come into the office, but they haven't, so yay.
Yeah.
Um, but there's just so much. At some point you do have to say, I'm just gonna have it on Substack. I'm just gonna release it every week, and hopefully people will find it and love it. And
Yeah.
if you don't get around to, publishing Harmony House or publishing Departures, that it's okay. But it's not okay if you don't do in the works. I'm just putting that out there right now.
I mean, I think that the heartbreaking thing about this is people don't really love to read in the way that we're publishing. I don't like to read that way. I mean, I would much prefer to have the book in my hand to
Right.
read it, right? To
Yeah.
read it
It
on my
it
terms.
is.
Yeah.
And I would love to tell all the people who I love on Substack that I'm reading their work, that Essie Reed and Hannah Delaney and Bridget Wright. Like I could think of all the people who are doing great and amazing work on Substack, and I would be lying. And I will tell you right now, quite honestly, the only reason I even paid attention to your departures is because you were reading it, and so I was listening to it. And
Hmm.
if you didn't have that, I don't think that I would have read it on my phone. And I did read your perfect strangers, passing strangers. Excuse me, I don't know why I have perfect strangers in my head. Passing strangers because it's short. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, I can read this really quickly because as much as I read on my computer and my phone and my tablet, you're right. I'm not reading fiction or literature on any of my electronic devices. If I'm not
Yeah.
picking up the book, I'm likely not reading it. And I don't know how to make myself an ebook person. I'm just not.
Yeah.
That's just not in my DNA to do that. Surrounded by 15 bookcases, it's evidence. I don't own a tablet. Like
Right.
I just
Yeah.
can't imagine doing it that way.
Yeah. It's a weird thing we're trying to force fit the serialized thing. So whenever anyone like Eleanor Anstruther or other people, you know, we all kind of try and champion the serial novel because it's sort of the format we're forced to do
Right.
in this setting to have an audience. And Substack has been obviously great for all of us because it's given us this community and this way to
Mhm.
publish work, but it's not ideal. And the ideal way would be to have a built-in e-reader into the thing where people could just buy the whole thing and read it, however they want to. But yeah, I think I discovered uh, my love of audio and production and doing voices was definitely a strength for this because I think many more people read and continue to read the books that I have because they can listen to them, because they can walk in the park or they can do the dishes or whatever, and they can
And your
spend that 20
relaxing
minutes each week.
voice and your relaxing voice doesn't hurt either, I've got to say. And I'm sure everyone in the room who's heard you speak will say, yeah, like that helps because not everyone can read their own work and people can stand to listen to it for more than a couple minutes at a time. No offense, like I hate the sound of my own voice, but I think that's expected for people to hate the
Yeah,
sound of their own voice. That's a normal thing, but it doesn't hurt that you have the kind of voice that people can just like listen to.
You're sweet.
Aside from the fact that your writing is really amazing, structurally and characters and all of that, it helps that your voice lends itself to being an audio book reader.
Oh, well,
That's what
thank
you
you.
should be
That's
doing. Um, Let me see what else. I think I have a few more. I'm like,
yeah.
I glance over and I'm like, okay, I think I can ask this question. It fits with where we are right now. Um, uh, okay, so hold on. I've heard it. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that.
I was just reading some of the notes
Okay.
here. Jay Curtis said there's no missing the fanfare. It's a box set in the making.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to go together to just be a box set and say, here's the three stories I serialized on Substack. You're welcome.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that gets to my perfectionist nature. I mean, when I was typesetting The Memory of My Shadow, uh, I was totally fucking nerding out on like all the orphans and widows and like, paragraph by paragraph, every single thing. And then God forbid you do an edit and then it reshuffles everything and you got to go back and redo that. It's painstaking, but it matters to me because it's like this is the physical embodiment. And I think if I had to pinpoint why I procrastinated in publishing the other ones, it's because as an independent musician and now an independent author, you put your hard earned time into producing this thing, not to mention your money into producing it. And then you have this physical evidence of stacking up of, I don't want to say failure, that's a harsh word, but just a reminder of like, you've got all these books that no one's buying or that no one cares about. And it's like as long as they're not real in the world, you don't have to worry about that. But when you have boxes of CDs and storage,
Right.
from 1998 when you made a record and you've got, uh, copies of your first novel that you had printed. It's a reminder that it's like, okay, you did this thing and then you didn't do the job of getting it out in the world. Or that's one, or two, the world rejected it, depending on how good a day you're having.
Right. And I've thought about that. I've been thinking about like print on demand and should I buy in bulk and then sell it from my garage and what would that be like? And I
Yeah.
don't think I want to do that. But I do now want to ask um about your secret novel that you're writing.
Yeah.
How is that going? And can you tell us a bit about it? Do you see a timeline for that anyway, where you feel like it will be ready to release? Because it sounds like you want to finish it, unlike your other two, where you didn't finish them when you started releasing them chapter by
Yeah.
chapter. So are you going to try a different tactic this time?
I don't know. I think I'm always learning about myself and just sort of responding to the process every day when I kind of show up and start writing. Um, Again, you begin to think as you get older, like, and I'm definitely older. Um, why am I in such a hurry? Sometimes I think, why am I in such a hurry to just, finish it and get it out there and publish it and go on to the next? So I'm trying to be a little bit more methodical.
Mhm.
I'm already pretty methodical when I write. I don't do out a lot of writers will go through and they'll do just this really nasty draft just to blow it out and get all the ideas out, knowing that they're going to go back and they're going to change, 80% of it or
Right.
maybe rewrite the whole thing. There's some writers that say they burn the first manuscript and they go write it again from memory and it's better. I don't. I mean, every paragraph I write, I reread and I tweak and the same for chapters. So by the time I get to the end of the novel, it's pretty well done. At least in my mind. If I was a great writer, I probably wouldn't be done. I go back to the drawing board and tear it all apart again. Um, so for this book, it's mostly a function of time. I didn't want to get myself hanging out over a cliff where I had the publishing schedule that I have for the other two books, where I'm trying to write chapters, 8 weeks in advance, and then record the audio narration for the one that's coming out this week, and do my job and all this other stuff. But I'm like 25,000 words into this new one, which is roughly a quarter of, a novel. Um, and I feel like I'm turning the corner where I could start publishing it. And I feel like the characters have come alive in a way that until that happens, it's all thin ice to me. Until I don't really give a shit about the plot too much. I don't really care, you know, if there's a ticking time bomb or if there's something, because you talk about stakes in writing, and I think stakes are meaningless if you don't care about the characters. And if I don't care about the characters, I have to put it down and start over. And I'm at this point, they're real to me. They're kind of moving in my head, and I care a lot about them. And that's what's interesting when you sit down to write a new chapter. I don't have a script in terms of now they're going to do this and then they're going to go here and they're going to meet this person and this is going to happen. It's more like I throw them into a situation and I don't know how they're going to react until I'm there in the page with them. And then it's surprising, and that's what's fun. That's the best part. So I might I might start doing it before it's completely finished. I'm not afraid of doing that. I've done it twice before.
Right.
I'm not that precious about it.
Yeah.
It's mostly just a function of time. But you ask what this one's about. I'm not also precious about jinxing things too much. Um, I wanted to write this story about. It's kind of germane to everything that we're talking about right now. It's how hard it is to make something as an artist, how much you invest yourself in it, and how easy it is for maybe someone else to sell it, right? There's like two completely different skill sets. And I've sort of brought these two characters together where one is uh, almost kind of an autistic level artist, someone who is just like completely, it's all they know how to do. I have a cousin who's more like a brother to me who I love dearly. And a lot of this character I've modeled after him. Totally has no life skills, no ability to function in the world. The sweetest, most amazing person, and uh, a brilliant visual artist, but helpless. And this book is kind of like imagine if that person met someone who was an amazing salesman, someone who could like had that ability to connect with people and knew what they wanted and to put it out in the world. Um, and then throwing a twist in there of like she didn't want to do do the work of promoting herself, even to like show up at a gallery and take an interview. It was too much
Mm-hmm.
for her.
Mm-hmm.
So they create this anonymous artist who doesn't exist. That it's
Okay.
a complete mystery. And it's just sort of how I play a lot with identity and gender and kind of this idea of taking credit for work that's not yours. Uh, I don't know. I'm not explaining it really well. I don't have a really good
Mm-hmm.
pitch for it, but but it's a lot of these things mixed together with a little bit of magical realism. I always love to throw some little twist into it that offsets it from reality a little bit.
Yeah, I that's what I was waiting for the hook. I'm like, okay, so where's the hook? Because I feel like in all your previous ones you've had a bit of a hook. Um, so my last question to you is because we always worry about doing too much and taking attention from one thing away from the other. So do you have a concern if you were to release this new novel anytime soon, that if people start loving your passing strangers that would you do them side by side? Would you keep doing one over the other? Would you stop one and say, sorry, guys, I know you loved passing strangers, but I'm going to pause that and start releasing this thing? And people start storming the gates and saying, what happened to passing strangers?
Well, I don't think people are storming the gates right now for my Substack. You're sweet, but I don't think anyone's paying that much attention. Um, so I don't know. The passing strangers things to me was I looked at it like a long haul deal. I'm not going to do it every week. I'll probably disrupt it once in a while with an essay or something because anything it just becomes relentless. And that's what I worried about during the middle of departures. It's like every week people just see the same graphic that comes up. It's like, oh shit, I'm not reading this. I'm still not going to read it. You kind of you make a big bet when you start publishing a long form serial book that everybody's on the train, and if they get off the train, they're never going to get on the train after it's left the station, except for one person. And this is an amazing thing that hopefully other people here can find inspiring if you're a writer. You never know who's reading your work.
Right.
When you put it out in the world, you never know who's going to read it. And um, Stephanie Sweeney, this other writer on Substack, joined the last reading of the story. I think I just put out a note inviting anyone who wanted to just jump in and listen to the last chapter. She did. And she went back and read the whole book, and she like wrote these amazing comments as she was reading. So um, people will come from different places and they'll discover your work. And um, as long as you're into it, people will be into it, I think. But the minute you start doing it because you feel like you have to do it, you've established this thing. You have to complete it because it has to be completed, not because it matters to you. I think you've lost your way, and it just then becomes a job. And most of us already have jobs, and jobs kind of
And in
suck.
many ways, I feel like that's what my 100 word stories have become. It's a crutch.
Mhm.
And I feel like I don't have to do anything else because every day I write a 100 word story and that's enough. And I feel like that's not enough, that I don't want to pigeonhole myself into just being that person who all she's good at is 100 words a day and that's it. So I
Yeah.
have to let it go. And I know that people have been constantly like messaging me and everything like, no, you have to get, no, it's sorry guys, but 1,000 is enough. It's 100,000 words. You're welcome. Never thought,
Mhm.
I mean, I never intended to do this every day. And then it became this beast where it was like,
Mhm.
I'll only do 250. Okay, I'm only going to get to 500. Okay, 750, I think that's good. I'll stop at 750. And then it was like, well, if you're at 750, you might as well get to 1,000. And then it's like, okay, after that, I really can't. Like, I need to prove to myself, not just for everyone else, but for me, that I am more than 100 words a day, in my fiction and in my storytelling. I am more than that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have to prove it to myself. No, Julie, not 1,001. 1,000. No, I'm not.
One to
And
grow
that
on.
and that's not to say that I'm going to stop writing 100 word stories. It's to say that I'm not going to do it every day. That
Yeah.
doing it every day is too much. As Ben, you know, because you write every day, don't you? We all do. It's just, we all don't share what we write every single day like I do.
Yeah.
And I'm insane and crazy for doing it. So I think enough is enough, and sometimes you need to do a new chapter, and that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay.
It is okay. Yeah. You have to release yourself from that and stay engaged.
Right. And it's always good to try something different, like you doing these passing strangers is different. It's not some extended serialized novel, and sometimes it's good to give yourself a break. Um, and do those sorts of things. And I want to say, again, thank you for coming on here with
Oh,
me
thank you.
and giving me your time. You're the only person I'm willing to come on, on an evening, because I always tell people like it has to be weekday, it has to be morning, it has to be
Oh,
like during my
yeah.
working hours. Like not only did I come on with you, but it was during a vacation day, so I had to tell my wife, or a holiday. I was like, okay,
Oh,
so
yeah. It's Juneteenth. Yeah. I was actually
right,
off today too. Happy
right.
Juneteenth, everyone. This
Right.
is much
Oh,
more
and
important than talking about my fiction.
so she was like, "Oh, so does that mean I have to put him to bed? Because I put our son to sleep every night because I'm the stricter parent. So when I put him to sleep, he goes to sleep. Like she put him to sleep a half an hour ago, and I can tell you I hear him bowling or doing something right above me. So he's definitely not asleep." So, so she was responsible for putting him to sleep, and clearly did not happen. But
Well,
I was
thank
like, I
you,
have
Erica.
to come talk to Ben because this is the only time he's got, and so I'm giving him my evening.
You're so sweet to do this, and I just admire your tenacity and your courage and continuing to put work out every single day. That is huge, you know.
Yeah.
It
Well,
takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you to do that, and not
it
just that,
does.
but just holding up the community of people. Like I see so many people in the comments here that I know, you know, you have sponsored their fiction, you've put it out there. So thank you all for showing up too.
Yeah.
We all continue to support each other's work. That's what this is all about.
I'm trying to do as much community building and as I can and get as many voices as I can out there. And I love doing these like interview things and I love, when I ask and people are like, "Sure, why not? I'll get on there." I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." Um, this is the only time I'll do it. I will say that this live will be in Monday's email just because I don't like to send out more emails than I promised to the community. So I lump it into an email that you are already expecting. So I realize it's Thursday, so you'll have to wait a couple days before you can see it. But if you were here, then so all you VOD people, you should have been here when it happened. So you didn't have to wait 4 days before you got to see it again.
You missed some amazing shit in the beginning, by the
Oh
way.
man. Oh
It's
yeah.
totally off the chain.
It was it was awesome. I don't know if it was off the chain, but that's it. That's cool vibes I don't know about. But anyway, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Everyone enjoy the rest of your Juneteenth. If you're going back to work tomorrow, as I am, boo.
God
But it is
bless you.
Friday. So let's be happy that it's Friday and that it's going to be that much closer to the weekend. Um, okay. So
All right.
anyway, thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Erica. We'll see you
All
all
right.
soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.